Hey Optimancers, Chris here. I had a comment on one of my videos from Delilah Fox. They say, hey Treant Monk, I was wondering if you could do a video on different methods of stat generation. And I assume they mean ability score generation. Different standard arrays, point buy, different rolling methods. My personal favorite way to roll stats is to roll 22d6, drop the lowest 4, and then make 6 groups of 3 to make stats. I think it's an interesting topic, certainly worth discussing. Yeah, I think it's worth discussing, so that will be the topic of today's video. These videos are supported by patrons. I want to thank all my patrons, but I specifically want to thank some of my top level patrons today. Joseph Robideau, Joseph Van Horn, Josh Davis, Joshua Samuel Lappel, K. Che Aurelio, Underhill, Kurt G, Lee LeMay, IGW, Marlon Rooks, Martz, Math Guy Dave, Matt Schwabel, Nathaniel McCulley, Nick Lutz, Nick Simmons, Nines Tempest, Odessian, PCZ, Pedro de Vaca, Philip Martin, Prometheo NTG, and Ramen Goblin. Thank you all so much for your support. If you would like to check out my Patreon, a link is in the video description. So there are 3 official ways to determine your ability scores. The first is the stat array. This is the one I started with when I started 5th edition, and I probably used it for a year. So you get a 15, a 14, a 13, a 12, a 10, and an 8, and then you place them where you want. Then you apply any racial modifiers, and you're done. This is a very simple method. I think it's good for if you've got beginning players. It's easy, right? And it works just fine. In the time I used it, I found that generally speaking, I could work this to build the characters I wanted for the most part. I think the weakness of the stat array is that, of course, the distribution is always going to be identical. So you're always going to have 115. You're always going to have 18. And so if you wanted something that maybe had 3 decent stats, no way to do it. Or if you wanted something that maybe had no bad stats, there's no way to do it other than what you can achieve through racial modifications. So it is less customizable than other methods, but I do think it works fine. If I go to a table and somebody's using the stat array for stats, I have no complaints. Now, the system that I switched to after about a year was the point buy. So with the point buy, you get 27 points to spend on your ability scores. If you want an ability score of 8, it costs you 0 points. If you want an ability score of 15, it costs you 9 points. And basically, it's 1 point per additional point of ability score up to 13, and then it's 2 points to get to 14, and 2 more points to get to 15. This is a very customizable method. It actually works really well. I've never had a big complaint about point buy. Now we can change the starting number. We start with 27. We could give more, we could give less if we wanted to. But essentially everybody is going to have the same pool to use. So it is fair, and it allows you to customize your ability scores the way you want to. The chief disadvantage of this method, I would say, is that you can have 1,000 characters, and the lowest score you're ever going to see for an ability score is 8. And the highest you'll see before racial modifications or feats are applied is a 15. So you only have from 8 to 15. So even in extreme cases, we'll never see ability scores below 8 or ability scores above 15 before modifications are applied. And then there's the third method, and this is probably the most traditional method in Dungeons & Dragons for generating ability scores. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll 4d6, take the top 3, and that's your ability score. So in this case, I'd take the 4, the 3, and the 3, and I'd get a 10. Then we're going to do that 5 more times, so we have 6 scores in total. We're going to arrange those scores among 6 ability scores any way we want to. So we can put our highest score where we want it, and our lowest score where we want it as well. This is my least favorite of the 3 official methods of generating ability scores. Well, you just saw I rolled a 10. I'm going to roll again, and now I've got a 12. And I will roll entire characters, and that 12 might be my best ability score. It's all about luck, right? You can have an extremely lucky character or extreme slightly unlucky characters. And I tend to go one way or the other. And I don't like it either way. I like having roughly equivalent ability scores overall to the other player characters. I'm not looking to have an edge over them because I got lucky, and I don't want to have this huge handicap where I just happen to roll bad. And it's such a small portion, it's not even gameplay, right? You're just in character creation, yet it kind of sets the mood for the rest of the campaign. And I have to say, I am not a fan of ability score generations that involve luck. And so when I look at Delilah Fox's method there of 22d6, I still think there's luck involved there. I'd rather not. I'd just rather not go that way. So I've seen a number of different ways to roll ability scores, and frankly, I'm not a huge fan of any of them. I've seen you roll 3d6, but you re-roll 1s and 2s. You roll 8d6, and that's how much you get for your point buy. I've seen you roll 2d6 and then you add 5 or you add 6. And I have to say, yeah, I'm not a fan of any of them because they're all luck based. I don't think your character creation should be luck. I don't think it should be like 2 minutes of bad luck at character creation and sorry, you're going to have a crappy character. That's just not my style. I understand a lot of players do like that, and for them fine. It's just not my thing. So when I think about ways I like to do ability score generation, I like luck to be a small, if present at all, factor in that process. So when it came to a different ability score generation, I kind of thought, what is there beyond stat arrays and point buy that doesn't involve luck? And I actually found something online that I thought looked pretty good. So I tested it. I used it maybe 20 times, maybe 30 times, something like that. And I found that every single time it worked out reasonably well. And I do think this is a method that you can get random ability scores without having problems with people being lucky or unlucky. So I'm going to show it to you now. The first thing you need is a deck of cards. So this is just a regular deck of cards, except I have removed a lot of the cards. So all that is left is I've got 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 6. So I've got 3 2s, 3 6s, and for 3s, 4s, and 5s, I've got 4 of each of those. So in total, I have 24 cards here. So as you can imagine, these are going to replace rolling dice. Now, because we have less 2s and less 6s, it means that we're going to actually kind of be pulled towards those center numbers. So we're more likely to get more 3s, 4s, and 5s than 6s and 2s. The other thing is we're going to be using all of these cards for creating our ability scores. So no matter what order they come up in, we will end up with 72 points worth of ability scores. It's just they'll be distributed randomly. So luck actually isn't going to play a factor. We're always going to have 72. Now, the one thing you do have to actually consider is that it is technically possible to deal out 6 sets of 3 here and end up with 6 12s. And if you ended up with 6 12s, then luck has played a part because you're not going to have any ability score that's really strong enough to be your primary ability score. So then you've actually gotten unlucky. But there is part of this system that accounts for that. So I'll show you that, and you will never ever have a situation where you have 6 12s. So after shuffling the cards, now I'm going to deal them out in sets of 3. So I've got 4, 6, 6, ooh, a 16, that's good. 2, 5, and 3, so that's a 10. 3, 5, and 4, so we've got, what, a 12. Then I'm going to have a 5, a 4, and a 5, so that's a 14, that's pretty good. 6, 4, and 2, so that's 12. And then 3, 2, and 3, so that's my lowest ability score at 8. Now what happens now is I'm going to determine which one is my lowest. In this case, it's the 8. And which one's the highest? In this case, it's the first one I dealt. So we've got 16. And what I can do now, if I choose to, is I can take any one of the cards from the lowest and switch it with any one of the cards of the highest. In this case, I wouldn't want to do that. I can live with an 8. 8's not too bad. I'll probably have at least one dump stat, and I like having that 16. So I would probably keep that 16. If I get an ability score of bonus of +2, I can start with an 18. Well, here, an 8, no big problem for me. I've got a nice 14 here. That's probably going to end up being put in Constitution, I bet. And then some decent ability scores to place elsewhere. So yeah, that's not a bad array of stats at all. So let's see what happens if we end up with less luck. So I'm actually going to stack the deck here to end up with a certain result. Okay, so let's say we shuffle our deck and we deal it out, and this is the result we get. So we've got a 4, a 6, and a 2, so that's a 12. Then we get a 5, a 3, and a 3, so that's an 11. Then we get a 4, a 5, and a 3, so that is 12. Now we have a 5, a 2, and a 6, 13. Now we have a 5, a 2, and a 4, that's 11. And a 3, a 6, and a 4, so that's 13. So now we have a case where our highest ability score is 13 and our lowest is 11. This would be pretty hard to make a good character out of, and you might feel like, you know, you got pretty unlucky, especially if another player character is sitting there with a 16 or 17 and your highest ability score is a 13. But that's the beauty of this system, is we're going to take our lowest ability score and our highest ability score. So our lowest ability score is 11. Now we have more than one 11. We have an 11 right here. 5 plus 3 plus 3. And we also have an 11 right here. We have a 5, a 2, and a 4 is 11. And our highest ability score is 13. So we have a 13 right here, this 5, 2, and this 6. And we have a 13 right here, the 3, the 6, and the 4. So what I can do is I can change any one card from my lowest ability score, and I can choose either one because they're the same. And then I can choose one card from one of my highest ability scores. So I've got here a 3, 6, and a 4, and a 5, 2, and a 6. I'm going to choose this one. It's got the 2. So what I can do now is I can take out this 2, put it here, take out this 5, and I can put it here. So now I have a 16, and I have an 8. So now I've got this 16 will be good for a primary ability score, and this 8 will be good for a dump stat. So now I've got a workable character. I've got another 13. If I get a +1 from an ability score from race, that'll work nicely for Constitution. I've got lots of options here to make a perfectly reasonable character on par with the other player characters. So again, yeah, we've kind of taken luck out of it, but we're still getting random. So I just wanted to make a video where I discuss this method. I think if you want to use random ability scores, but you don't want to have players that get unlucky sometimes get punished for that, this is the method I would use. And if I was to play as a player, despite the fact I don't like random ability score generation, this is a method I don't think I would mind at all. Let me know what you think, or if there's any ability score generation methods that you think are really cool, share them in the comments below. Otherwise, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.